Good afternoon, everybody. Caleb here with Indiana Storm Chasing Network here. Wanted to come on here and give you guys a quick update as to the freezing rain potential that we have here today that is currently beginning across areas of southern Indiana, south central Indiana, and will be continuing through the overnight hours tonight into early Thursday morning. So, with further ado, let's get started here. Here's a live look at the radar here and temperature profiles across the region here right now. Currently, we have upper 30s, even a few 40-degree signatures popping up here near the Ohio River. Here's a look at current radar here. You can see a little bit of a changeover starting to occur east of Indianapolis, between Indianapolis and Dayton here, where you see the area in pink here. As we look at temperatures here, you can see the warm front sitting just south of Indianapolis here. South of the city, we have temperatures into the mid to upper 30s. North of the city, we go into the low 30s and even low 20 or upper 20s across northeast Indiana here. Those temperatures will warm up here as we go through the evening here. So northeast Indiana, you will warm up into the 30s as this event begins here. The changeover is already beginning here across eastern Indiana and southwest lower Ohio between Dayton and Indianapolis here. This freezing rain will gradually move up and increase in coverage across central Indiana and northern Indiana, especially north of the I-70 corridor here. So what's going on here now? This is about all the freezing rain you're going to get between now and 4 in the afternoon here today before this will change over to rain. These warmer temperatures will progress northward as we go through the day. I know that sounds kind of weird that we have to get warmer to allow freezing rain to occur. But that's actually true. We have to warm up a little bit in the mid-levels to allow freezing rain to occur. If we don't have warm air and we're all cold, well, we're just going to get snow. We're not going to get ice. I'll go into that in a little bit later here. So without further ado here, here's kind of the layout of what we expect here tonight. Rain, even some thunderstorms are likely across southern Indiana here this evening, and even possibly central Indiana could get in on some lightning action here this evening as we have some elevated instability that'll move in with this system as well. Areas in pink, freezing rain is expected to move into portions of northern Indiana here, primarily after 5 o'clock. Freezing rain is starting across central Indiana, really right around the I-70 corridor. A few reports of freezing drizzle starting there, and that will progress northward as we move through the night here tonight. Further north, as we move north of state line there, ice totals will get a little bit less north of the Indiana-Ohio border there, gradually moving into the sleet category where you have some more cold air aloft versus warm air, and then snow across northern Michigan as well. As far as totals here for Indiana, here's our latest thoughts here. We are thinking that this event will remain below ice storm criteria, which is good news. For ice storm criteria, we really need those totals to be 1/4 of an inch or higher of ice accretion on the roadways and bridges. But right now, we're thinking most places will see anywhere between a glaze and 2/10 of ice accretion. With that being said, though, don't take it for granted. As we know, especially across the Fort Wayne area, just the other day, we had just a glaze of ice, but it wreaked havoc on area roads, including 69, 469, and roadways around Fort Wayne. So with that being said, it does not take a lot of ice for this to create a real problem on area roadways. And we will probably see that here this evening and especially tomorrow morning for your morning commute across northern Indiana. Our highest totals right now are expected to be across northern Indiana, especially northeast Indiana, north of Highway 18, and especially east of I-69. And the reason for that is because that area of northern Indiana will remain coldest the longest. The cold air at the surface will be stubborn to move out and will not warm up as quickly, thus allowing the ice to remain on the roadways and allowing it to accrete longer. So we do have some higher totals up there, but most will see anywhere between a glaze and 2/10 of ice. The green line there, you can see a green dashed line there stretched all the way from Marion across Jay County there, all the way up to Porter County up there by Gary. We do expect a changeover to occur. As I mentioned earlier, that warm air is going to move up northward and kick that cold air near the surface out and will allow it to warm up. And that'll then end the freezing rain for areas south of that green line here. Right now, it is currently starting around Indianapolis, is where the freezing rain is currently at. That warm air will gradually advect northward, warming the surface and ending your freezing rain. So with that being said, a lot of people are wondering about what the morning commutes will be like, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. As a result of the freezing rain, though, here are our current advisories that we do have in place. Portions of central Indiana and northern Indiana in purple are currently in a winter weather advisory for ice accretions anywhere between 0.05 of an inch to 0.2 of an inch of ice. Areas in tan there, that's a special weather statement. Less ice accretions are expected there across central Indiana, including Indianapolis metro area. The ice that you're getting right now is pretty much what you're going to get here. It'll slowly be changing over to rain here over the next 2 hours as that warm air moves north. So Indianapolis, you guys should be good in your morning commute tomorrow. The ice threat will be very limited in duration for you guys. That's why you're not in a winter weather advisory right now. I know a lot of you guys from Indianapolis were really worried about this one, but the good news is very limited impacts for Indianapolis and areas south. And that's because of that warm air advecting northward, which is going to put an end to the freezing rain threat south of the along and south of the I-70 corridor. So that's good news there. But as a little breakdown here of what these ice accretions mean in terms of impacts, a glaze, as we know, it doesn't take a lot of ice to create a lot of problems on the roadways. A glaze of ice is enough to cover area roadways and create a really hazardous driving environment. You really lose a lot of contact with the ground with your tires once a glaze of ice is in place on area roadways. Roadways become slippery. However, there's no tree damage or power outages with a glaze. There's just not enough ice to weigh those items down. However, as we progress upwards in the accretions up to 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of ice, that's the category that portions of northern Indiana will see tonight. Some isolated tree or power line damage is possible. Not widespread, but possible. A few branches may fall or snap with the weight of the ice as tree branches become stiff and hard to move and bend, like being in a cast. Once we get up to 1/2 inch of ice, that's when we start getting some issues here above 1/4 of an inch. Above 1/4 of an inch is ice storm criteria, is when ice storm warnings will pop up. Once you see ice accretions reach anywhere between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 inch, is when you'll see those warnings pop up. We don't expect that tonight, as this will really be limited in duration and time. Thankfully, once you get into this category, though, power outages become numerous. They become more widespread. We start seeing tree damage, limbs falling down, power lines being weighed down, and perhaps snapping as well off the insulators. And then once you get up into a significant ice storm, that's 1/2 inch or greater, we have extensive tree damage, limbs down everywhere. Some trees begin to fall down as well under the weight of the ice. Power lines begin to snap and break everywhere. And once you get to the inch plus category, that's significant icing, of which hopefully we won't see for some time here in this area. Catastrophic damage, widespread area, roadways become impassable. You cannot travel once you have 1 inch plus of ice. The good news is we're going to be on the lesser end of the category tonight, anywhere between a glaze and 2/10 of ice. So the pink and yellow categories here tonight. So watch out for those slippery roadways and so on and so forth. But let's time it out here, shall we? Southern Indiana, we're not expecting any ice for you guys. So you guys are in the clear for this whole event. Rain is expected to move in. In fact, it's raining for a good portion of southern Indiana tonight. Thunderstorms are possible, though, so don't be surprised if you hear a rumble of thunder. No severe weather expected, but you could have some heavier downpours in any thunderstorm that does develop tonight. As we move north into central Indiana, again, this is primarily I-70 and northward for central Indiana, so do keep that in mind. Areas south of the I-70 corridor, you guys are all green across the board. Expect for perhaps a few heavier downpours or a rumble of thunder or two. Timing for Indianapolis, anywhere between now and about midnight tonight. We do expect hazardous road conditions. Again, south to north, it'll progress and improve as that warm air advects northward here. As we do have some high travel impacts expected here this evening, they're about midnight tonight. During that time frame, it will be warming up from south to north. However, on the northern edge of this forecasting area, you could have some icing that'll be more long-lived, especially across Randolph County, Muncie, Kokomo areas north. We'll have those prolonged impacts. Morning commute, we did leave it yellow here just because on the northern end of that forecasting area, like I said, between Muncie and Kokomo, you could still have some slick spots on the road by your morning commute. But Indianapolis, I-70 corridor and south, you should be okay for your morning commute. So no worries there. That's not the case for northern Indiana. Northern Indiana will see the most impacts during this event today. Let's time it out here. Right now, we do expect the bulk of the freezing rain to start moving into northern Indiana anytime after 4 to 5 p.m. here tonight. This rain will slowly move in, but as it does, cold air will remain at the surface, and that'll allow freezing rain to fall and freeze on contact with anything it touches, including roadways, trees, and power lines. We do expect significant travel impacts expected here, especially after 10 p.m. tonight. through about 1 in the morning or so is when we really think the bulk of the impacts will impact northern Indiana. We don't advise traveling during that time unless you absolutely have to. If you do have to venture out on the roads, give yourself extra time. Put sandbags in your car in case you do get stranded and you need that extra traction. But take your time. Be very slow. Remember, four-wheel drive does not help you stop on icy roads. Precipitation-wise, though, precipitation will move in here anytime after 4 o'clock across northern Indiana. In fact, it's a little bit of ahead of schedule right now across southern Indiana. The worst of the freezing rain will be probably between 6 p.m. and midnight tonight, and then we'll slowly exit the state after midnight. Excuse me. Travel impacts, though, they will progress into your morning commute, especially northeast Indiana, where that cold air is stubborn and will be slow to exit the region. So we do expect some slippery roads to impact your Thursday commute across northern Indiana, and this does include Fort Wayne, Indiana. Fort Wayne, Angola, Whitley counties, Wells County, Adams County, Allen County, DeKalb County, all the way up to Angola, and those areas mentioned there will be the last to warm up. So do expect travel delays in that area. But like I said earlier, a lot of people don't know that we actually have to warm up to allow freezing rain to occur. And here's what's going on in the atmosphere. So this is a vertical profile of the atmosphere, looking at the ground straight up. Our warm front will be moving north, but notice we have some warm air aloft. That is why we have freezing rain. This is between the ground and the clouds themselves. Precipitation tonight will be mostly starting as snow, but as that warm air advex northward, remember we have to warm up before we to get freezing rain. This warm air aloft melts the snowflakes, and as it falls, they melt, but there's not enough cold air to allow it to refreeze into sleet. Instead, it stays liquid, but freezes on contact. That's what we're going to see here tonight. As this warm front moves northward here, if we were all cold, we would be seeing all snow, but we're not all cold. We have a little bit of warm, and that little bit of warm causes issues in terms of precipitation amounts, types, and rates. So that is what we're going to see here tonight. But the good news is by tomorrow morning, freezing rain will end, and temperatures will actually warm up tomorrow a good bit into the 40s for the majority of the state. So a lot of the ice will melt by your evening commute and during tomorrow afternoon. So that's good news there. This will be a rather short-lived event where ice will melt tomorrow afternoon for your evening commute. Now, there is some chatter about a weekend system here, so let's go ahead and talk about that here. As we go throughout the day here tomorrow, we're going to be watching trends here on our next system here. So here's the European model here, and here's a look at our next system potentially coming Saturday. This is a Super Bowl pregame show here brought to you by Mother Nature. Here we have another Colorado low that'll be moving in off the plains here. Very similar setup to the low that'll be moving in here today. A weaker low, not a very deep low, but there's going to be enough moisture and enough enough lift here to promote precipitation here. Notice where the pinks are. Very similar area to what we're seeing here tonight. Ice, freezing rain, and sleet possible for northern Indiana, northern Ohio, and southern Michigan. But there's a lot more snow expected with this system. Heavy to moderate snow expected for Michigan, Wisconsin, and areas north of the state line here. So we do expect that here tonight. And here's kind of a look at the playbook here that Mother Nature has here on Saturday here. Our Colorado low moves in. We are expecting some rain and perhaps a few thunderstorms for southern Indiana, southern Ohio. Freezing rain here across northern Indiana, northern Ohio, where that warm air moves northward here. But that cold air comes in to put a stop to it, perhaps doing a first down here right around state line here. We'll get our down here. And cold air on the northward here. We'll have to watch this very closely to see where that rain-snow line sets up ultimately here for the weekend. But it is something worth watching, especially if you have Super Bowl plans or if you're traveling early for the Super Bowl, going somewhere to watch the game with, or just traveling this weekend in general. This will be a time frame to watch as our next system moves in. But this pattern here, we really are in a really active pattern here going forward here. We actually have a parade of systems moving in here over the next couple of weeks here, a really active period here in terms of weather. So we have a couple more systems following this system, but those details won't be known until we get closer. So with that being said, let's jump to the comments here. I've done enough talking here for a little bit, and let's see who's in here. We got Julie in here, Ashley in here, Cindy in here, Kevin in here. again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in here. But that's basically the synopsis here tonight. Freezing rain will move from southern Indiana northward. Again, it's starting right now across here's a live look at your radar here, and even look down here, southern Illinois, southwest of Vincennes. Got some lightning bolts in there, so thunderstorms are possible, and even a few thunderstorms just north of Louisville here in the southern part of Indiana here, right along the Ohio River. So again, this rain and warm air is advecting northward here. We do have a changeover occurring right around I-70 between Indianapolis and Dayton here. The I-70 corridor could get pretty slippery here for the next hour or two before this warm air pushes north, putting an end to that freezing rain. Freezing rain will start in Logansport, Fort Wayne, and South Bend. Really, anytime after 5 o'clock tonight is when that'll move northward here. Temperatures are in the upper 20s right now across northeast Indiana, but those will warm into the low 30s here by the time we get to this evening and your evening commute here. So do be careful if you're coming home from work in Fort Wayne, South Bend, Logansport, Muncie, as this could cause potentially some travel hazards here for your evening commute, especially after that 5 to 7 o'clock time frame when this freezing rain is going to move in to portions of northern Indiana. So with that being said here, let's see if we got any comments here. Any chance of thunder ice? Yeah, there really is. We could have some thunderstorms and thunder sleet possible across northern Indiana. Thunder, I guess it's just thunder rain at this point in time. But yeah, thunder is possible, especially for central Indiana and southern Indiana. Northern Indiana could see a few rumbles of thunder, but really the best instability is going to be south of the I-70 corridor. So yeah, don't be surprised if you hear a few rumbles of thunder or see some lightning tonight. It is possible down there. So with that being said here, guys, wanted to get on here and give you guys a quick update of what we were seeing, what we were expecting here. I'll go back, and for those of you just joining here, I will show us what our latest forecast is here. In terms of ice accretion here, again, highest totals are expected across northern Indiana, anywhere between 0.05 of an inch to 0.2 of an inch of ice is really what we're expecting across northern Indiana. Those totals will prolong across northeast Indiana. Excuse me. But that changeover will occur, and it's occurring right now, right along the I-70 corridor right now. So those warm temperatures will advect northward, limiting your ice totals there between Indianapolis and Muncie. Right now, we have you in anywhere from a glaze to 1/100th of an inch of ice. Again, as we know, a glaze is enough to cause havoc on the roadways. You lose traction between your tires and the roadways, and that can cause problems, especially along the I-70 corridor, I-69, and you have some other highways down there as well that could be treacherous. So do keep that in mind for your evening commute. The good news is Indianapolis, we will warm up as the evening progresses here. By the time we hit midnight, we will probably be near 40 degrees in Indianapolis. So that'll be good news down there. That'll melt a lot of the ice that is falling right now, thus limiting your problems, and you shouldn't have an issue for your morning commute down there. Again, right here, where you have the green dashed line there, that is our ice terrain line. We are expecting a changeover to occur generally south of that line. Areas north of that line are expected to be in freezing rain a little bit longer, thus having some higher totals up there, especially northeast Indiana. Anywhere between 1/100th of an inch of ice and 0.2 of an inch of ice are possible up there, and is in fact likely up there as well. Again, winter weather advisories are in place through tonight into tomorrow morning for those icing conditions and especially slippery roadways as well. Special weather statements further south where the changeover is expected to occur quicker and thus limiting the icing duration. So with that being said here, guys, thank you guys for joining us here. And if you guys missed anything, feel free to go back to the beginning and rewatch that. We covered the timing of this system, our hazards associated with it, and as well as a brief look at the upcoming system here impacting your Saturday plans if you guys have any pre-Super Bowl plans. So with that being said here, guys, take care, have a good weekend, and we will see you next time.